All right, guys, good morning. It is another money morning. What's up, Andrew?
Good morning. Good morning.
All right. So I came across this video of a fella, looks like it's a TikTok clip, doing some kind of a podcast, and he's offering some of the dumbest advice I've ever heard on paying debt. So it's a 33-second clip. We'll just play this and put it up on the screen and get some feedback from Andrew on this because he's the expert. Here we go. If you can't hear this, just let me know, but I'll turn up the volume and you should be good.
And you don't pay the debt collectors, which, by the way, to the audience, you should never pay a debt collector because the debt doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the debt collector. Let me explain this to you. If I owe a...
So I think maybe we should pause this and deal with one point at a time. He's saying that the debt doesn't belong to you. Hang on, let me just play this again.
Pay the debt collectors, which, by the way, to the audience, you should never pay a debt collector because the debt doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the debt collector.
First of all, he's using the wrong context here. He sounds like an idiot. It doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the debt collector. Can you explain what that means?
I think what he's trying to say is that the debt is owned by the debt collection agency, and that would make some sense if this is an American based in the US, because the majority of debts in the US end up getting sold by the original bank and get bought by the debt collection agency known as the collection agency. So if he's trying to reference that you don't owe the debt collector does, I think he's referring to the fact that the debt collection agency bought that debt from whichever bank, and that is who owes or who owns the debt, the collection agency. I think that's what he's referring to.
Right. So a lot of debts are still listed to collection agencies under the contingency basis, where they get paid a commission on what they collect. And then the issuing creditor, if they're not happy with the performance of that agency or a certain amount of time has passed, will then take their debts and then relist it to another agency. The language that he's using, it doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the debt collection. Doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know if maybe English isn't his first language, but if you owe a debt, you owe a debt.
Yeah,
right?
It's in the original contract that you would sign when you borrow money from a lender, that states that the lender can sell the debt to a third party if they so choose to do so. And that means the legal rights will transfer from the lender to the collection agency if they choose to sell the debt. So when he's claiming you don't owe the debt, that's not correct. The transition of the legal rights goes from one party to the next.
Yeah. All right. Let's throw this back up on the screen and continue with what he's got here.
Let me explain this to you. If I owe Amex $1,000 and I say I refuse to pay you, right? And they sell my debt to ABC Debt Collections Company, LLC. The debt doesn't belong to James Jiang anymore. The debt belongs to ABC Debt Collectors. Why should I pay a debt that doesn't even belong to me anymore?
Okay, so let's answer that question. So, I mean, this is the dumb shit that shows up on the internet from people that are incompetent. Why should I pay that debt? So, Andrew, I owe $1,000 to a credit card company. They've sold that debt to a collection agency. Do I still owe that debt?
Yes.
So what the hell is this moron talking about? Can you explain that to me?
I have no idea. I honestly, again, he seems to be someone from the US, and there are slightly different legislations down in the US, but the concept of the debt being transferred, he used American Express as the lender. He was the one that used that as the creditor. So he's saying if he owes $1,000 to American Express and it goes to collections, it's no longer a debt I owe. It's the debt that the collection agency owes. He's using the wrong language. He owes the debt because he purchased $1,000 worth of product on that credit card. And it just transitioned from, in his example, American Express to ABC Collections. So the debt is now owed to ABC Collections, and he is the one that owes the money. So his terminology is completely inaccurate, and I don't know what he's really talking about because it makes no sense.
This is what annoys me about the internet today is a video like this has 2 million views. This moron, Mr. Diamond Tattoo on the neck over here, has got 2 million views on this notion that you don't owe a debt anymore and that the debt is owned or owed by the collection agency. He's not being clear with his language. Anyway, we've got 10 more seconds of this nonsense to go through. So let's go through it.
All right.
Most people get scared because debt collectors, if you don't pay, we're going to garnish your way. They get scared. No, it's against the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. You don't have to pay debt collectors.
Oh, wow.
And then you got moron on the couch going, oh, wow, that's some, revolutionary information. No, if you owe a debt, you owe a debt to the creditor. Whether you choose to pay it or not is entirely up to you. You can pay it. You cannot pay it. You don't have to pay it if you don't want to. I'm not saying you have to pay it, but contractually speaking, if you've taken money on credit, then you owe it. It doesn't matter if it is sold to and I'm going to let you correct me on anything here because I've been out of the space on a day-to-day basis, for a few years now. But if you've gone and taken credit, you didn't pay it to the creditor, they said, all right, we're done with trying to call you and send you letters. We're going to either send it to a collection agency for collections on contingency, or we're going to sell it for a few cents on a dollar and let them remedy it. You can buy debt. Debt is an asset. I can go to a credit card company and I can buy $200-300 million worth of unpaid debt, and that's now owed to me. You can transfer debt. Debt can be considered an asset, and then I can then hire people or phone systems or dialers or whatever to call and harass you or send notices in the mail to remind you to pay the debt that you owe, because you still owe the debt. Debts can transfer. It's very, very common in the world of finance. So I really don't know how somebody like this can get amplified that much. Like, this just goes to show you the level of competence that you get getting data from TikTok. Did I miss anything there, Andrew? Can you clarify anything?
No, that's all accurate. It's like you said, the guy's got 2 million views on that, and your 2 million viewers are potentially thinking, well, I don't have to pay that. And like you said, paying your debt is an option. You don't necessarily have to pay your debt if you don't want to. There's pros and cons of doing it. If you don't pay your debt, it's going to remain on your credit report as an unpaid item. It's going to damage your credit score. If you don't pay your debt, you're going to receive collection calls on a regular basis, bothering you and harassing you to pay your debt. You're going to receive letters in the mail reminding you that you've got an unpaid account. If you don't pay your debt, you also take a risk of being sued by that creditor or the debt buyer. Whoever now owns the rights to that debt can sue you. So there are some significant cons.
Plug your jack in. It seems to be loose, man. It's really hard to hear you.
All the way. Yeah,
that's
so
better.
As I was saying, if the debt is transferred, it doesn't make a difference. There's some cons if you don't pay your debt. So, what he's trying to do is get viewers to buy into the notion that you don't, or you shouldn't have, you're not going to have to pay your debt. And that's not accurate whatsoever. It's going to damage your credit rating and your future if you do not pay your debt off.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the comments here, and it looks like at least half the people have their heads screwed on right, and there's another half the people that are just like, oh, that's some pretty good advice. I'll just not pay my bills. Look, there's another notion that we can talk about before we wrap up, because we have some time on this one. There's this concept of the limitation period. I don't know what they call it in other jurisdictions of the world or in the United States. Again, this is from our experience in Canada and in Ontario. The limitation period here for debt is still 2 years.
Yeah, in Ontario. Yeah.
Okay. So what that means, guys, is if you don't pay or give any written acknowledgement of the debt to the creditor for 2 years and they try to sue you, you can defend that lawsuit on the basis that the limitation period has expired. Is that still correct? I mean, you're the licensed legal professional, so you correct me.
Yeah, that's accurate.
Okay. So that means that, let's say 3 years down the road, you get a call from a collection agency that says, hey, you owe us $1,000 for this credit card. You didn't make any payment for 2 years. You didn't make any written acknowledgement. You didn't send them anything in writing saying, I've changed my address. Here's where I am. Like, you've completely ghosted them. I'm talking about a full-on ghosting. You've completely ghosted the creditor for 3 years. If you still owe the debt, it's still going to show up on your credit bureau for the period of time that it's allocated to your credit bureau. It can be anywhere from a few years to 6 or 7 years, again, depending on where you live and what the jurisdiction says. But they can't sue you successfully if you defend it on the limitation basis, because all you have to do is say to the judge is that the statute of limitations, has expired and they can't do anything about this. I haven't acknowledged it. I haven't made a payment in 2 years. I don't know what they're talking about. Essentially, it's not a complex process, but nobody knows this. Nobody tells you this. You get morons with diamonds on their necks with a microphone. Honestly, microphones should be regulated things. You shouldn't just be able to get a microphone and say shit to 2 million people and give them bad advice. But that's how it works, right? You got anything to add to that, man?
Well, yeah, it's not regulated, right? The internet's not regulated. The guy's on TikTok broadcasting a very short video with a ton of viewers because he's obviously got a popular following, and he's providing, I would say, unreasonable and incorrect advice to his viewers, and that's because it's an unregulated system.
Who is this guy? James Jiang. Let me just look him up real quick. James Jiang. Is this somebody of significance? Does he? James Jiang, is he Canadian co-founder? Easy. That's not him. Some other Asian guy that showed up. I'm looking for a guy with a tattoo on his neck. No, he's not even significant. I got nothing when I Google search James Jiang. I've never heard of this guy.
Well, he's from the looks of it, if he's got that many views and he's on someone's couch doing a podcast, he's certainly an influencer.
You know what? I'm going to look up the podcast and dive down this rabbit hole a little bit more to see what's going on here, because there might be some serious. I'm not even going to say it on the air. There might be something worth discussing on this in a future episode.
Okay.
Very, very strange advice. It's literally the dumbest advice I've ever heard. What you heard today on the show is 100% accurate. Andrew is a licensed legal professional at totaldebtfreedom.ca. This is the company that I founded back in 2003. This is stuff that I saw over the years. Lots of terrible advice, lots of shady players out there. That's just the way the space is. Nobody really clarifies these things. I mean, there's a catalog of older videos on this YouTube channel for a long time now. I think the first video we uploaded was 2008 or 9. It was a while ago.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Anyway, you can go back through the catalog if you want to dive through some other content. But yeah, be very, very careful with the notion that I don't need to pay the bill or whatever. You still owe the money. The only circumstance in which you can get away from not paying it is if the limitation period is passed and they try to sue you. They can still call you. They can send you notices. They can do all the standard collection activity. But if they're doing we're going to sue you if you don't pay, you can say, all right, have fun. Let's do that. Let's dance, bring it, sort of thing. But you have to check what the local laws say, where you live, and understand what the limitation period is. That's advice you need to get from a lawyer. Andrew is a licensed legal professional. He's confirmed and validated everything in Ontario. This is still the same across Canada too. Like, are the laws the same with the exception of Quebec for this?
In terms of limitations, all provinces have a different limitations act statute, and they're all similar in nature with the time frame. The majority of the provinces have a 2-year limitation. There are one province with 3-year limitation, and there's a province with a 6-year limitation. So it all depends on which province you're in.
Which one's a 6-year?
Manitoba's a 6-year, Quebec's a 3-year, and then pretty much every other province in Canada from east to west is 2 years.
There you go. All right. If you guys need help with credit card debt, you can visit totaldebtfreedom.ca. It's just below Andrew's name. There's reps there that can quote, and if it's not a good fit for your situation, they'll just refer you somewhere else. People always ask me, like, well, how do I know that I should get help? I think the easiest way to determine it is if what you're doing and have been doing for the last 6 to 8 months or so is not bringing down the balance. That's when you should take a realistic approach to, getting off the merry-go-round of debt, like the stupid plan where you're spinning your wheels and not making any forward progress, and look for some other alternatives. It might be bankruptcy. It might be a settlement approach. There's any number of things you can do. But again, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And if that's what you're doing, it's time to make a change. Andrew, I'll see you tomorrow. Any closing thoughts or words on this one?
No, it was an interesting video. Sometimes you get people like this that are bad apples that just make comments and they don't have a clue what they're talking about.
I'm going to dive down this rabbit hole of this TikTok thing in a minute and see what else is out there, because this might bring us to some other or new concepts to address. Anyway, see you tomorrow, man.
All right. Have a good one. Yeah, you too.